Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing good in this trying time of pandemic. It's been long since I have written a blog post or recorded a video. I've been quite busy, but then off late I had been given a task of automating day-2 actions for OpenShift clusters. I was asked to explore the different options that's available there, and then, if possible, automate the tasks. So while I was going through that, I learned a lot many things, and then I found something, and then I thought of sharing this my findings, my work with you all. So the purpose, as I mentioned, of this document or this video is to tell you the work that I have found out and the ways that I have found out to automate the different day-to actions for OpenShift clusters using vRealize Orchestrator, and then exposing them as a XaaS service in vRealize automation. The environment that I used is 4.5.x environment for Red Hat OpenShift container platform. Though I have used it 4.5.5, it would work for any version of Red Hat OpenShift. The orchestrator and automation versions are 8.1 respectively. Now, the main task that was given to me was a specific task that we would start with automating the logging in OpenShift clusters. Once you deploy the cluster, then you want to enable logging, and then the logging needs to be done to vRealize login site cloud platform. So all the logs from that OpenShift cluster should go to the vRealize login site cluster. That was the initial task that was given to me. And now if you look into the task, it has two part. The first part is automating the tasks in OpenShift platform on that side, and then automate that entire process through vRealize orchestrator. So those two part. And then there are two different ways that I can do that task. One thing is the easier way from OpenShift perspective, that any Kubernetes environment you run kubectl command, or for OpenShift you have OC, that is their OpenShift CLI command. Those pretty much straight away will do the tasks. And then the links that I was given, those are forwarding logs to third-party systems. They give you the examples, and then the OC commands that you need to run to achieve those tasks. So this is well documented. And then if I go to login site cloud environment, and then look into OpenShift cloud Kubernetes environment, and then it gives me the steps using the kubectl command, exactly the steps that I need to do. So the task for me was, how do I automate these kubectl commands or OC commands? And the options to me are, I can run this command, remote execute these commands in guest ways. Take a Linux machine and then remote executes this command. So that's the easiest way, it seemed to me. And the best package for that is guest script manager package, written by Christoph Decanini. Amazing work. I have built many workflows using that particular package manager. The other option for me was using the REST API directly. So let's have a look at the pros and cons of both the options. So if I use kubectl, it's easier to implement at OpenShift level, but then it's a bit complicated at the VRA orchestrator level. You need to take the parameters and then modify the parameters, run it, execute, remote execute in those VMs. And then the other thing is, there's no official support for that package. Christoph did an amazing work, but officially it's not supported. The second thing is dependency on an external VM. Now think of this: one cluster, two clusters is fine, but then if you have a bulk number of clusters, 100 clusters, and then you execute them parallelly, concurrently, that's a bottleneck, right? So that's really not scalable or reliable. The second option, on the other hand, it's easier to implement at the VRO level. Pretty much straightforward HTTP REST methods. And then the HTTP REST plugins in VRO are officially supported. The problem is the lack of documentation. Now, for me, I'm pretty much well conversed with Kubernetes environment. I know my ways around Kubernetes clusters, but then I'm a newbie or beginner in OpenShift clusters. I don't know OpenShift clusters that much. So I tried to find out, okay, how I can get the REST API documentation. And that's where I started. I started with the OpenShift API documentation. It gives me these are the list. And then the authorization, say for example, APIs, it just tells me this is how it is. And then specifications, the endpoints, and then what the post method. But then how do I build that body? What are the things, the parameters that it expects? Dry run, field manager, pretty, global these query parameters. um this is namespaces. What then there are hundreds of APIs, and then where do I find to do what I need to do? So that was not pretty well formatted. That was not really very helpful for me, all this information as a beginner in REST API for OpenShift. On the other hand, the Kubernetes APIs, they're pretty much helpful. Now, if I look into this, say for example, endpoints, the write operation, what I need to do to create, post this, and then the query parameters and the body parameters are also given. And then if I need to do a patch, what I need to do. So still I had bit problem with building out the body. How do I build the body? What are the exact format? Because I don't have any templates. I know that I need to make this request and then there's a parameter, but in which format those parameters will go? Because this is Kubernetes that I'm talking about. Everything goes into YAML format. So how do I interpret those? So I was struggling with this for pretty much a couple of weeks. And then my friend, Rafael Breto, he showed me a method, and that did the magic, amazing magic for me. So he showed me that any command that you run in OC, say typically, for example, let me see, say OC get namespaces. Now, if I run this command, uh, OC, what it does, it's a wrapper over REST API. So it does the REST API calls. It gives you the information, OC get namespaces. But then if I say log level, say equals to 10, it tells me what the commands that is running at the back end. It gives me exactly the format that I want. Say, for example, it tells me what it's running. So let's take another example. Say, for example, I say the first task, the first step is in this task was to create a namespace, right? So the first thing was to create a namespace for me. Deploy. This is creating a namespace. I wanted to create this namespace. So how do I go ahead and find out what I need to do? So I said create namespace, say test123, and then say log level equals 10. Now this may be a known fact among the specialist OpenShift or SMEs, but I'm a beginner. I didn't know this. I'm a specialist at vRealize automation side. I orchestrate. I know my ways into Orchestrator, but then I don't know this. So he showed me this, and then you see it does a lot of tasks at the back end, but the last call that it does, it tells you what was the post, what is the post or get or anything. This is the URI, that API v1 namespace that I need to do, and this is exactly the request body that I need. So I took this request body, and then this is the header. So header is looking for authorization bearer token, and then accept is application JSON. So what header parameters that I need, I already have that. I have the body. Now that body in this format is not very useful to me. So uh, what I did was I went there and then beautify, and I have my body. So once I have this body, now I can go ahead and use that in my calls. So I came back to my orchestrator, and then I started to building my workflows. And then I have this schema, this entire workflow, which does exactly what it's asking me to do: install VRLI login, logging in OpenShift. So first of all, I'm taking the inputs, the access token. the Kubernetes cluster API that I need to pass, and then the log API log URL. Because the logging says that in between I need to look for the access key. I need to replace that access key and then endpoint URL where that log will be forwarded to. So the access key can come from here. I go to configuration API keys. That's where you would get the access key. You just create a new API key, and then pretty much the log forwarding URL, you can use this one. So that's of the information that I need from the end user, because that information I don't know. And the other thing that I wanted to do is do not store any information that I'm looking for. So I just create transient hosts. So I do not create a host, REST hosts. I could create a REST host and then define actions on top of that. But then if I'm handling 100 clusters, I would have 100 entries here. So I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to keep it as minimum, as simple as possible. So just ask for this information, the access token. You can log into your Red Hat OpenShift clusters, and then here copy login command. Here you would get your token. So display token, and then this is the token that you need to have. Okay. So my in this workflow, I'm just asking for this token, importing the certificate, and then create the namespace. This is where it starts. Now this is pretty much straight and simple. Once I explain it, you would see how simple it is. I'm just taking that FQDN token, uh, building a REST host, building the URL, and then just creating a transient host. This is where I'm building the body to create the namespace. This is exactly the body, because this is a set task that was given to me via vRealize login. That is a set task that you would have to create. That's the tasks that I need to follow from the documentation. So the steps are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps, but then the body, that's where I am building the method that I need to run. Typically it's post method for this workflow, and then I'm just executing that workflow. So that was namespace. If I go to the next step, which is creating operator group, all it changes is the body and the URI. This is what it changes. And then I got that from again running the OC command. Simply go back to here, and then the next step, Elasticsearch operator by creating the objects, creating object group. I created an YAML file and then ran exactly that command and picked up the REST API endpoint, the URI, and the body that I need to run. So I got all that information from OC itself. So it told me that this is exactly the information that I needed. Uh, to be very honest, the documentation was not helpful, but this actually is a lifesaver. It told me what I need to do. And that means any task that you want to automate for OpenShift, you would get that information, use that information in this particular format, and then you'd be done. So all the tasks, that's one by one, the steps that it asks me to do, I have just followed and created all the tasks like this. There is a pretty big body, but then that's exactly what I had there. And I'm just running post method and on this end URI. That's it. If I look for another one, that is, this one was the most complicated one, because I didn't know how to interpret the object body. Not this one. Let me see. I wanted to do cluster logging instance. This one was this. Yeah, so this information, you would see this is pretty big and this is in weird format, because uh, this was something that was pretty hard for me, like where exactly the format that needs to go and how it should be represented. Let me show. Yep, this is how the body is, because this is a kube config, this particular file. So what it says that you create a config map, and then use that config map to change the fluent conf. So it gives you the parameters that you need to update in this kube conf. So this is a configuration file. Now I struggled with this. How do I pass this parameter as a body? And then I just used OC to pass that parameter, and then did this, and then say beautify. It gave me this information, but then I said validate. This was a valid JSON. Beautify. I finally ran OC and then came up with this body structure where I just need to define it here, and then define the other format, break it up, see the data. So the structure, body structure was like this, and the data contained this information. So I'm just changing that data, and then see, this is content object, which is a JSON format. I just use the parameters directly, the variable directly here. It works. So all I need to do again is post and then this method. So that's how easy it becomes when I use REST APIs. And then this is installing logging in OpenShift. And then I created another workflow, which is what if you want to delete these workflows. You created that and you want to clean it up. So delete the vRealize logging in OpenShift, which is pretty much simple, the straightforward. It is just the opposite. Even the method is same, delete. For everything it's delete, and all I am doing is on that particular URI, I'm calling out delete, and then it does that. Pretty much the same step. It cleans up the entire environment. Now, remember, these workflows are just proof of concept. So you cannot use them directly in the production. You need to do scrubbing, do error testing, and error handling, better error handling, and then catch up the gotchas. All of that you need to do. But then these would provide you the framework. So these two workflows are the task that I was given. But then I came up with the third one, say run a task on OpenShift cluster. What it gives you, you pretty much throw anything at it and it handle it. So for example, I'm asking the access token, the Kubernetes cluster API, and then I'm asking the API URI, provide me the API URI. You tell me the method that I need to run on that. It may be get, put, patch, delete, post, anything. And then give me the request body in JSON format. If there is no body, for example, doing a get, don't give anything, keep it blank. And I'm just taking that and running the task. It's as simple as that. And using this framework, you can pretty much automate any task that you can think of in OpenShift cluster. You can build a workflow which will automate that task for you. With OC, you know that exact information that you want, bring it here, bring these values, and then wrap it up in your workflow. You get your automation. So you have these three workflows available in a package in this repository, where you can simply go ahead and download this package. You see, so this is the repository where you can go down. This is the package. This is the VRO package. Simply download the package, import it in your VRO environment, and then you're ready. The other task, it was to import those as XaaS workflow. So go to Service Broker, and then content and policies. Just take the content source workflow and then add the workflows. You can build your own workflows, simply add them here. And then content sharing, uh, take a project and then share those. So that is there. And then once you do that, that's available for you to run those workflows. Now what I wanted to do, and then if I didn't have much time, you can go ahead, and what you can do is when you run these workflows, they come as deployments here, right? So the day-to action is pretty much limited. You can just delete it, but that's not what it is, right? So what you can do, you can create a workflow which will take as an input OpenShift cluster, say cluster API, the FQDN for the cluster API FQDN, and then you add it as a HTTP REST host and as a custom resource. And you predefine your day-to action, so that whenever you add So give a XaaS action that add your cluster, OpenShift cluster as an entity here. So you add it here, it comes as a deployment here, and then you click on that. Under that, or you have all those Day2 actions available. Say expand storage, expand the cluster, delete a node, whatever you can think of, any task that you can think of that can come up automatically tag as Day2 actions, you can do that, and then you can delete this task. So that is something that you can do as a next step, probably if you want to give it as a true XaaS format. So that's what. But then I wanted to provide these workflows because these are frameworks which you can use to run pretty much any tasks on that. So that's what I wanted to cover. You want to automate, go ahead and utilize those. The detailed document is provided here with the explanation of the tasks that is there, the workflows. It's pretty much whatever I have explained. This is what it is. This is how we would do it, and it's the framework. This HTTP framework is pretty standard. You can utilize that for anything. This is available in code.vmware.com as well. So you can go to code.vmware.com and then search by my name, and then you can get that under the list of things that's available. You can simply go ahead and say code.vmware.com, and you can go there. You can search by my name, which is Sajal Devnath, and then you would get to see the package. Let me see, it should be here. Yeah, this is the one. So you get it here, and once this video is done, I'm going to upload it in my YouTube channel, which is here. You have other videos available there as well, so this video will be available there as well. And then I'm planning to write a blog post which should be available in my blog site. This is here, sajaldebnath.com, pretty easy to remember, and you can go ahead and check that blog post. So please go ahead, do check this, and then try these workflows out. Let me know if there is any issues. I'm pretty sure that there would be issues because I just created the framework. And then before I finish, I wanted to acknowledge Rafael again. Without his input, it was really tough for me. Mandy, and then Robbie Jerem, he provided me this OpenShift environment, right? So stay safe, stay happy, and we would talk pretty soon.